Welcome to How to Brothel, a Go Woo Yourself miniseries, Episode 1, Why I Love Being a Legal Courtesan. I am your host and writer of these posts, Luna Robbie, and my goal, always, is for us to learn how to connect with other humans in satisfying ways, to spread ripples of love, and to share our individual wisdom and woosdom so that we may co-create a sexier, more loving world together. If you would like to read the written version without my personal commentary, you can find all of these posts on my website, lunarobbie.com/FAQ, and that is also where you can ask me any questions I haven't covered yet. I have a few dozen topics currently planned for this series, and all of them are inspired and prioritized by the most common queries I get from friends, lovers, and other curious humans. So let's dive in. Make your work your play is a phrase that I grew up hearing, and I really took it to heart. Much more literally, probably, than my mother intended. And after more than a decade of truly resisting my dream job, I finally embraced the fullness of my creative nature, in part with the help of a mutual inspiration swirl from my very best friend Gigi. And you can hear about our origin story together if you listen to the episode that we did on Strictly Anonymous Confessions with Kathy Kay. There's a link to that on my blog, lunarobbie.com/blog. So I let go of the last wisps of trying to fit in with societal norms. I really never did fit in. I tried really, really hard and I didn't fit. And I finally realized I didn't want to fit. I know from talking to many, many people that the way that society squishes people to think they have to be a certain way is not very comfortable for most people. Some people are like, oh, well, I don't have to squish. And then some people are like, what do you mean? I never had to squish. And then some people are like, I fit perfectly in this square hole. I think I'm a big round peg that does not fit into a square hole. And I feel like a lot of people have to shave off the sides of themselves to be squares, like society wants us to be squares. Not everyone, but I do know a lot of people who tell me their like secret wishes and desires. And I finally just realized I was already living an artist life. And through allowing myself to go all the way, I was able to discover my favorite oasis that is a magical upward spiral of dreams come true. So that is the resort and spa at Sherry's Ranch. I thought about it. I researched brothels for a long time. You know, my origin story of curiosity has to do with the first time that I saw Les Mis, and I was like, lovely ladies. And I'd never wanted the destitute version, but when I realized that I could choose something for myself and find a way to make it my own, I was like, I? Really? And the answer is yes, really. So being a legal courtesan is a very perfect fit for my inner creative nature. And it really was a logical next step. It's interesting because I knew that I always was interested in humans and storytelling. I never really understood humans. They're very confusing. And so I wanted to learn how to be like them. I studied performance and also filmmaking. I've always loved stories and storytelling. So that's what I studied. I did a lot of auditioning in Los Angeles. So I would say that first acting, and then of course I became a cocktail server and then bartender because I was an actor in Los Angeles. Those were my first gateway steps towards sex work. As an actor, we are judged on appearance. It took me a long time and a lot of people from the podcast and everyday life being like, are you on the spectrum? Are you on the spectrum? Are you on the autism spectrum? Do you know if you're autistic? You seem autistic. Are you autistic? Before I finally was like, oh, okay. So in my early days of performance, I didn't realize that I was really studying human patterns, different types of human patterns. And, it's interesting being in auditions in Los Angeles next to other literal models. I didn't know facial recognition is not really my top skill. I knew other ladies were very pretty. I could have put the pieces together that I was in the same rooms as those pretty ladies, so therefore I must be that pretty too. But I really didn't. I knew that I was fuckable, and also I wasn't having great sex, so I was like, there's something wrong here. And I got rejected a lot by people who I definitely knew wanted to have sex with me when I would be like, hello, it seems like you'd like to have sex. Do you want to have sex now? So that was a very wonky origin story, and I loved being an available option at an audition. And then I found out as a cocktail server, I loved moving through the crowd and like touching people. It would be creepy if a man did it, but I, as a 22-year-old, would just like move people. I would touch their hips. I would kind of squeeze through them and brush against them. And I loved physical contact with strangers in appropriate, agreed upon ways. I worked at a very popular karaoke dive bar. It was always very crowded, especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday when there was karaoke. And so I would always just like squish through the crowd, and I loved touching people. And there was something satisfying about all of the other animal bodies around me. And then when I became a bartender, I felt even more liberated to dress extra slutty because I was behind the bar and, I didn't have to worry about anything. And it was definitely correlated to tips. And so I think that was the first part where I was like, ooh, this is fun. And then other origin stories include the podcast and stumbling into censorship and not realizing that putting my fine art nudes on OnlyFans meant that I was already a sex worker. And so I was like, wait, I'm already a sex worker. Wait, people from the podcast are already treating me like a sex worker, but for free. Wait, this is money left on the table. Wait, there are people who want to be really, really clear about exactly what they want. Okay, so all of those steps, and then telling Gigi about my deep desires that I wasn't really sure about one day led her to be like, I want that too. Wait, you've done the research? Okay, so I'm giving you some backstory. And again, you can hear the whole origin story on Strictly Anonymous Confessions with me and Gigi if you want to go hear more about our adventure. And finally, I have gotten to live out my dream. So all of that to say is it really was a logical next step for me. And it has been the greatest thing. Here's some reasons why. Number one, clarity. I love clarity. I love knowing that someone wants me in a very, very clear, unequivocal way. I love that I completely get to focus on a single person, and I love that the person loves that. Like it's a mutually agreed upon hot moment. I become particularly aroused when someone shows a respectful desire for me, and I am a kindsexual. So when someone is nice to me and offers consistent evidence that they are a kind person who values me, who wants to get intimate, my arousal levels skyrocket. Like I need a clear container to feel safe and to feel certain that we are going to play in the ways that we said we're going to play. Clear is kind, as Brene Brown says, and clarity also creates a sense of mutual safety, which I find very hot. This is also a recurring theme in people who I have interviewed over the years. When we feel safe as humans, we feel more able to express our creative selves, we have a better experience, and it's really, really hot, which then, ripples into the rest of our lives and causes goodness. We also get to agree what we're going to do together and establish a dialogue of open communication from the get-go. I love that. So this frame allows, for me at least, much greater physical pleasure. Again, that feeling of safety allows me to just drop in and really enjoy myself. It creates deeper intimacy because we have this container of mutual deep enjoyment, and it begins the process of trust building. I love that it is a given that should we discover unknowns during our time together, we talk about it. So if something comes up that isn't what necessarily we negotiated, we discuss it in real time and figure out how to proceed. And most of all, we stick to our agreements during a play session, and they're not negotiations up, right? So if someone's like, I want to do hand stuff, and then we get into a session and they're like, I also want a blowjob. I'm like, ooh, we can talk about the fantasy of a blowjob, or you can come back and do that next time, or we can put our clothes on and go to the office and rebook if you want to negotiate up. But it's a very, very clear container. So it removes any sense of pressure that might otherwise be created. And I know from speaking to hundreds, if not thousands of people at this point, that when someone is surprised with pressure, it often leads to freeze, anxiety, and then sometimes regret. If someone's like, do you want this? They might say yes, because they don't want to get rejected. And in normative, non-kinky, casual situations, oftentimes I hear stories where people have agreed to do something that then looking back, they're like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. And typically animal bodies will be more relaxed if they kind of know what to expect, because we like a little bit of surprise. We, the humans, love surprise. Like our dopamine is like, ooh, dopamine, surprise, love it. And if it's a scary surprise, that can definitely turn off someone's desire, and that is not what we want when we're in an intimate physical space with someone. I am also extremely turned on by creative collaboration. I refer to sex as our original creativity. Think about it. It is literally the most creative act. Every animal does it. People wouldn't necessarily call animals artists, but they are definitely creators. And during our time together, we get to have the most fun being playful, creative artists together. We share our vision. We agree on the outlines of the co-creation. We improvise the specifics as we go, inspired by the moment. We make mutual joy in every second of our time together. And we might even debrief and plan for next time. And with every play partner that I have, we leave each other better than we found each other, inspired, sparkly, and ready to go out and meet whatever comes our way in this world. This is whatever comes our way. We come so that we can meet whatever comes our way in the world. And I do think this is why sex is so important as a co-regulation tool, as a way for our nervous systems to feel safe, to feel comforted. For me, it provides a sense of meaning. It is also transcendent, and I love that the clarity and the safety that the clarity provides helps create extra special experiences. The next reason I love being a legal courtesan is the community. So even if you only ever visit once and have a tour, you will get to experience the unique feeling that exists at the least judgmental place on earth. So ladies are loving, they're open-minded, they're beautiful, horny, pervert goddess geniuses. Like, the ranch has the highest concentration of lady geniuses that I've ever been to. It is very, very fun to also go and be excited if you haven't seen someone in a little bit, or be excited when our schedules overlap, or be excited that we're seeing someone coming and going. And for many humans out there, workplaces are the place where we get the most social connection. And I love having a place where I can be in the thick of a friendship circle and also go off and have my solo time, and also work and have fun, and then relax with people and, encounter people randomly in the kitchen. It's really, really fun. I also love the staff. They keep the place running for us. We got to give a shout out to housekeeping. Sherry's would not go without housekeeping, and they all do their best to take care of us. They really do care about us and our experience, and they are always on the side of the ladies. I mean, sometimes they're on the side of corporate ownership, and that's a different situation. But when it comes to ladies versus guests, if there's ever an issue, ladies are wildly supported, and the staff themselves are all cool. I love coming back each trip and being like, all right, what's the latest? Tell me, okay, what's the latest with the boyfriend? How's the baby? Show me pictures. We have a really nice blend of, of course, we're always professional, and we still get to know people. I also get so much value out of the community built by regulars. So that's both regulars who come in to hang out at the bar. There are a lot of local regulars, and also regulars who come back to visit. So I love building connections over time. I love getting to see how people grow. I love supporting people and recharging their personal, creative, and professional goals. It's extremely rewarding. We also do karaoke on Friday nights, and so we have some karaoke regulars who are really fun, and sometimes they party and sometimes they're just there to sing. And that's probably the most casual, relaxed vibe that we have in the bar. It's really, really fun to kind of have people cycle through, so it's not just the ladies that you see all the time. And it's sweet too, because I know some of the regulars who are my lady friends regulars, and I don't talk to someone else's client unless they introduce us. So that is politeness, protocol, and if a client is with a lady and another lady walks by, we do a thing where we don't really make eye contact. It's not that we're shy. It's just that it's polite, and there are older origins of people trying to steal clients from each other. It's not really the vibe at Sherry's at all. However, it's just one of the standard protocols. And if a lady introduces us to her client, or if the client reaches out directly via email or at the bar or whatever, then we can get to know them, and that can be kind of friendly. And, there are a couple people that I'm on a hello basis with, or a Twitter basis with, and it's nice to just feel general enthusiasm, appreciation, and support. And even if someone else's regular client is a devoted supporter of them, they might join my OnlyFans, or they might say hi, or I got a birthday card from one of my friends' regulars, which is just so sweet. I also feel the community of our beautiful oasis. I am definitely someone who's heavily influenced by watching The Brave Little Toaster growing up. So I tend to anthropomorphize everything. So, there's Ms. Kitchen. There's Magic Hot Tub where I like to sit and swirl. There's the chilly pool where sometimes I'll cold plunge. Mr. Gym, Madam Parlor, Lady Courtyard, the specialty rooms that keep all the humans good company and provide sensual shelter from the sometimes very harsh desert elements, And I love the desert animals and the landscape itself. So there are ravens, hares, bunnies, kitty cats, all the birds, beetles, owls. I see a lot of owls. I am definitely someone who's like, oh, look at this stink bug. Genevieve one time was like, Luna, come look at all these gigantic bugs. Jackie at the bar will tell me if there's a beautiful sunset. Everyone knows that I am a big appreciator of the natural world. And there are so many lizards. I don't know the specific names of a lot of these creatures, but there are things that I call night birds. And I'll go outside and I'll be like, hello, beautiful landscape. Hello, beautiful nature. Hello, bird. Hello, crow. Hello, raven. So I'm always talking to the sky, the amazing mountains. The mountains are so beautiful. It's so beautiful there. The vast vistas that help me remember that I too am part of nature. And because my home base is a beautiful but concrete box. I live in the thick of a concrete jungle. I love being somewhere where all I have to do is walk out the door and suddenly I am by grass or dirt and I see the sky, and it's just that easy. The third reason that I love being a legal courtesan is independence. I love being in community at the ranch, and I love that I get to participate in my very own way. And working in safe, legal ways that are in line with each of our values is very empowering. And it's not a contest, but I feel like I have way more freedom of choice and therefore feel more at ease with all of my choices in life than any of my friends who work in the corporate world and feel like they're kind of ball and chained to their jobs, and they are so stressed out by the social hierarchies of work, and they seem to be very, very, very concerned about being judged all the time. So I feel particularly grateful that I get to come into this place that is very, very non-judgmental. And if I need alone time, I can take alone time. If I need to recharge myself between hanging out with guests, I can totally do that. And my time at the ranch also funds my creative endeavors as an artist, allowing me full creative control to produce exactly what I believe in, with or without oversight or censorship or investors or sponsors. The podcast sometimes gets ads. It's been such a roller coaster, and it's an up and down thing. And so I'm so grateful that I really get to create exactly what I want. No one is paying me to make a podcast every week since 2018. No one does that. Sometimes I'll get messages from fans that are like, oh, I wish I could have the job that you have. They don't know about all the work that I do. They think I'm just a podcaster. And I'm like, well, you totally can. Just get a microphone and produce a show every week and don't stop. And I think what they mean is like they wish they could have a full-time job podcasting. I'm like, I don't know if I want that to be my full-time job. I guess if I did, I would make it my full-time job. One of my best friends does do that, and she is in front of her computer all the time. And I like intensity, but I love intensity in in-person experiences the most. So not only do I get to travel to my favorite desert oasis about once a month or two to be nourished and inspired by my favorite patron muses, wherever I am, wherever I go, I am always also writing and podcasting and exploring story-based ways to help people learn how to connect to themselves and each other. And then I also do still work as a photographer, and I get to be so choosy with clients. Like I had someone recently be like, hey, I have this job. It's kind of last minute. It's kind of a low budget thing. And I'm like, ooh, sorry. I'm literally so spoiled. I'm so spoiled. I don't do that hustle anymore, And also I served my time. There was a long time where I really, really believed in creating accessible headshot sessions for artists, and I did several years of that, and that was wonderful. I stand by that work, and I also realized that people show up for themselves more when they are willing to invest in themselves. And so this new era has given me stability at a level that I've never had before, and gives me freedom of choice to create exactly what I want, Plus a lot of inspiration. The fourth reason I love being a legal courtesan is stable novelty and adventure. I love meeting new people, especially when the frame of connection is clear. I do struggle more out in the wild when I'm like, hi, okay, it's nice. Are we gonna do the effort of friendship? We live far away. Okay, no. Do you want to be a guest on the podcast? No, you don't. Okay, well, I remember one of the early books that I read on like people and interpersonal reactions. Actually, I am recording this in my childhood bedroom. I'm like, is this book in here somewhere? It was called The Likability Factor. And I remember like friendliness was part of it and relevance was a big part of it. And so I think about that a lot. I'm like, well, I like you, and how do we remain relevant to each other? Not very many people that I've met actually like the level of like what I call deep noodling, where I like focus on a topic or subject and then I learn about it. I might read like 3 books about it sometimes in the same week, and then I'll want to talk about that topic a lot. And I have a lot of words. I like to talk. That's why I, enjoy this medium. That's why I enjoy talking to people, you know, even if it's just a tour at the ranch. I love meeting people who come in. I love being like, hello, I'm Luna. I'm a brothelitizer. Let me tell you why it's wonderful here. And it's even better if I get to talk to someone and then help them achieve a bucket list item. And it's even better if that person is like, actually, I crossed off the bucket list item, but I want to come back and return regularly, and we get to build a connection. Like, that is the best. Relevant connection is really, really cool. I love relevant work-related connections. I love collaboration, and not everyone needs photos as much as they would like to hang out, And so coming to visit me at the ranch is a really, really, really fun way to connect. I also love receiving stories of how people woo. So, how do you woo you? Do you want to be a guest on the podcast? It's an open invite. Especially if I get to share the stories on pod, that's my favorite. But the cool thing about the ranch is I get a lot of stories that will never be publicly shared. And sometimes those have a very different texture. It took me many years of interviewing people, especially once I realized that my guests were listeners, and in some cases they would show up and they'd be like, oh my God, I'm starstruck. And I'd be like, what? And I realized that there sometimes is a performative aspect to public storytelling, even if someone is using an alias. And I like to think that that completely goes away. Of course, I never really know what's true for another person. And do we ever really know what's true for ourselves, and what is true and what is reality? And I think it is our perception and the stories we tell about it. And I love the stories that people share with me in private spaces when they are dropping in and connecting and sharing in real ways in a safe space where they know they won't be judged. So I love stories from my own lovers, from guests who might not even be my clients, depending on the amount of time that I have in a given moment. If someone has an interesting story, I will so hear it. If someone has a boring story, I definitely have an upcoming appointment. If someone is trying to talk to me and complain or do free therapy, I suddenly might encounter a coughing fit and need to go. I don't know. But I love receiving connection-based stories, and I love, love, love receiving stories from other ladies. And they know that. And so if there's something interesting that happened, I will definitely be the receptacle of story, and I take pride in being a global secret keeper for people all over, whether they've met me at the ranch or through a photo shoot or through a podcast or through a set that I'm on in some other capacity. And I love how much I get to learn by speaking to people who have so many different backgrounds and different perspectives. I love learning what people are into, both first and secondhand. I do identify as a Vikerphile, like I live vicariously through other people. I also live pretty well firsthand. Like I love exploring curiosities. I really, really, really am one of the most curious people I've ever met. And I love how different every lover is, like every person, but I love getting to experience people's different energetic signatures. The fifth reason that I love being a legal courtesan is intimacy. Like I said, I love being a secret keeper. And while I do love going really deep with podcast guests in our conversations, there really is nothing quite like figuring out how to actually woo another human being in real time. And wooing, I mean this in many different ways. I mean, like, once we're in our yes zone, like, how can I make your body the most woohoo, right? Like, every human energy is, for me, a never-ending unfolding puzzle, and I like looking for hidden buttons. I know that I am an ever-changing, constantly shifting, growing, evolving being. I have discovered so much about myself every single tour, and I'm on tour like 31, 32, something like that now. And every tour, I discover something new. And there's so much that I haven't even on purpose set out to try. Like I have a whole list of like role play or philias or, different fetishes that I'm like, oh, someday I want to find someone who has that kink and I want to try it. But I only want to try it with someone who's already into it because there is nothing for me. For me, the type of sex I don't want to have is someone who's just like, you want to try it? Okay, I guess I could try that. And it's like, if we're both doing that, no, I want to have mutual spark of excitement. Sometimes in certain cases, I do a little bit of relationship coaching. It's not usually my favorite thing because I'm like, just go listen to Esther Perel's podcast and you'll get the gist of how to talk to each other. Like, just go listen and figure out your own version. Sometimes I get frustrated and I'm not patient enough to coach people. But sometimes people come to me and they're like, no, you're really the right person. We've listened to your podcast. We would like your brain. So I'm like, okay. And oftentimes, when they're like, oh, there's just not a spark, it's weird. It's because both people are busy feeling awkward instead of being like curious and playful together. And so I remember one of my first early role play attempts, I like was all dressed up. Like I knew that my partner would like this particular outfit. And like, looking back, I'm like, oh, this partner was just a very vanilla person and it was okay, but it was sort of like by surprising him with a dress up, I think I triggered anxiety. And so it was just very awkward. And later, and that was one of the things where I'm like, how come that? Yeah. And there was a lot of me being like, why is it like that? That eventually led me to the podcast and led me to be the most curious in ways that are delightful to me. So I love co-creating that container of privacy just for us. I love that we get to be exactly who we are in that particular moment. I love that we shed judgment. I mean, mostly. Sometimes people come in and they're like, I can't let go. And even in session, I had someone a few months ago who was just like, I can't let go. I can't let go. I can't. I was like, it's okay. I was like, let go of the fact that you can't let go. That's okay. Let's just be where we are and start from there and allow it to transform. A human emotion lasts 90 seconds on a physiological level, and if it continues past that, it's because our brains are doing it. So I love that for the most part, people know that I am curious and open-minded and they can feel that. Even if they don't know me or my work at all, even if they just picked me off the monitor or out of a lineup or at the bar, they like my vibe. Usually they can feel that, and usually that is enough of an invitation for them to show up as they are. Great book, Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. That should be Sex Ed 101 for everyone. That's my number one favorite sex book. So come as you are, shed judgment, and let's see what we discover. I love embracing our desires. I love that we get to express ourselves freely. And I love that we get to allow space for joy and peace. And the sixth reason that I love being a legal courtesan is the energy exchange. I love the swirl of energetic back and forth with another being. I love that we get to learn something new and different and valuable from everyone, provided we are open to it. I think it is totally possible to learn from everyone. In fact, probably one of my flaws, if we're going to call it a flaw, is being so open-minded and curious. I have definitely given my time away in the past. I've learned I don't do this anymore, to people who I didn't need to learn that. And I've learned now, I'm like, oh, I already learned that lesson. I'll do something different this time. I'd like a different flavor, please. I love feeling purposeful. And for me, sharing my energy with another person and receiving their energy in fullness feels very purposeful. And I love feeling valued. I absolutely totally have a money kink, and it completely turns me on to get rented. That goes back to the clarity thing, but it also is just like, oh, well, ooh, okay, I'm yours now. Ooh. Although actually what I usually say is like, once we do the booking, I'm like, oh, you're mine now. And It's mutual, right? That's the hot part. I love that my clients are such worshipful lovers who come to worship and be worshiped. I love that my clients treat me with the level of respect and desire that they wish to receive. And I love that these lovers know that because they are getting to skip all of the normal steps of courting that build intimacy and show people that we are invested and that we truly value them, money takes the place of that time and energy. And that's what allows us to fast forward, skip ahead, and let go of any expectations or worries about where the future might lead. Like, there is a very specific, unique thing that happens at a ranch because we get to really, really live in the present moment together here right now. And the clear energetic exchange creates a perfect container for us to be our full selves, to co-create that deeply intimate experience, like I said, and to remember how wonderful it is to be alive on this planet in a human body feeling connected. And again, my goal is always for us to spread ripples of love, not just be me by myself, but also me by myself, but also hopefully my ripple of love ripples into other people. And when I am feeling properly and deeply and well loved, I am so clear on my life mission. I get more of my writing done. I am more motivated to book travel plans and to let people know when and where my next photo shoot pop-ups are going to be. And I love getting wanted and fucked by other people who value sex as much as I do. That for me is a huge life turn on. It took me so long in casual dating to figure out that there are some people out there who are not that really into sex. And after digging deeper and interviewing more people and like learning more, it's so nuanced, right? Like, most people want to like sex or they want to feel safe and desired. And so there are all sorts of different levels of trauma. It doesn't have to be a big capital T, it could be a lowercase t, whether it's religious shame or like a early experience of someone judging them, or like an early experience that went wrong, or just they weren't safe with their last partner and maybe they can't even articulate it, right? A lot of people, I've had so many lovers that were like, whoa, I didn't know it could be like that. And I'm like, oh, we're just getting started, you know? So I love having the opportunity to create the safe space for partners that I personally was gifted by a partner that I had in my late 20s who really held space for me to discover my own erotic self. I love offering that to other people. I love satisfying a partner. Oftentimes these days, I am operating in top space, which means that I'm the one kind of in charge, leading the experience, because at the ranch, that's kind of built into the job. Even if someone is negotiating a situation where I am the submissive or receiving spanks or impact play, I'm still leading the experience by default. And most people who come at the ranch, most people who arrive and everyone who comes likes that I am holding space so they don't have to worry. The whole point is you show up, we take care of you. Like, it is about deep care. And care can look like many, many things, and it certainly is mutual always. And even before I started working at Sherry's Ranch, I was increasingly in top space in my personal life simply because when one becomes a deep, big sex nerd and is talking about sex and reading about sex and learning about sex and teaching people about sex constantly, I become a de facto teacher. And so finding romantic partnership or even just sexual partnership, because there was a period in my life where I experienced romantic relationships as a distraction from my creative work. And I felt like every time someone fell in love with me, using air quotes, they suddenly wanted me to stop working and to only focus on them. I'm like, who do you think you fell in love with? Like, what do you think is happening here? How could I possibly be me if I don't do my creative work? So for a while, I would only take on lovers and not dive into deep relationships. And that still is kind of my vibe. I'm not really trying to have a family life necessarily. I'm always open, and it's just not my goal. Like, my goal is to help other people have better family lives by educating as many people as possible about emotions and sex, specifically as they relate to one another. So I wish I had had clearer emotional education growing up, and especially providing emotional context to sexual situations is the origin of my podcast. So even though my origin story, sexual awakening wise, was as a service submissive, I now am usually in top space, and I love that. I was raised to be loving and generous and to share my gifts with humanity. And as a service submissive, I really, really learned how to take care of another human being. And so now I do that, and I'm just usually more in the gentle leading role. I've been told that I have mommy dom vibes, which is funny because I don't think of myself as a mother. However, I am extremely nurturing. I love nurturing people. I love taking care of people and creatures. Like, I definitely am the type that will always put a bug or a scorpion in a cup with a piece of paper and take it outside and set it free to the best of my ability. If it's a black widow or a brown recluse in the wrong place, I may, for safety purposes, have to squish it. And to be very clear, I have never found a black widow at Sherry's ranch. I find those at other farms and ranches that I sometimes go visit. So I love co-creating something unique with someone every time. That is the recurring theme, no matter what the medium. And I love feeling every single person's unique energy signature. I love getting to experience how my body is different every day. And I love experiencing in the most personal ways how similar and different we all are. So getting to spread ripples of love through the deepest in-person connection truly is my number one favorite thing in existence. I'm sure there are other reasons that I've left out of why I love being a legal courtesan. I love it so much. If you have any other questions about the experience or what it's like or why, all of those things, questions are welcome. I'm an open book, as you can see. I'm an open blog post, and I will turn it into audio for your ear purposes. You can find the written version of these posts at lunarabi.com/FAQ, and feel free to write to me and tell me if you are wooing you, how is it that you are doing such a thing? And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, definitely hit me up, and remember to follow your hearts and follow your parts, and you'll be good to go.